call is now being recorded.
Okay. So it sounds like in your center you've had conversations about the best ways to, enter and pedigree transgender patients and things like that. What else has come up in those conversations?
Yeah, we have talked about it as a group because I think we are seeing more and more transgender patients. We have a major Fenway Health. It's a major LGBTQ health center. It's like right down the street from us. So we have a kind of population right there. So I think a lot of the conversations have definitely been more on the medical management side of things. A lot of the doctors are, concerned about what levels of hormones are safe if somebody has a cancer predisposition, and kind of what's more important, like giving them the appropriate hormones to transition the way they want to transition, or even if that's going to kind of have the drawback of an increase in cancer risk, like what's really the best thing. So yeah, there's been a lot of talk about hormones and about surgical management, because I know there was somebody else recently who came in that was seen by someone else who had already had top surgery and then was found to have a BRCA mutation, and there was actually a lot of residual tissue. And I know it was really tough for them to bring that up with him because he was finally at a place where he was really comfortable with how his upper body looked, and to tell him that, he either needs to get mammograms or get screening or get more tissue removed was really challenging.
Yeah, that is a very hard situation in the case of someone that has already had the surgery done and really thought they were off the hook.
Yeah, exactly. And, when you've transitioned to male, and then you're told, oh, you might need to go get a mammogram. It's like, just kind of pushing you right back. And I can see.
Would they be able to do a mammogram on, a man?
Yeah, I think that was a question. They weren't really sure what they'd be able to do. Like, would they do, ultrasound, or how would they best image the tissue? Because from what I know, I think he is pretty opposed to having more surgery, at least for now. But yeah, there were certainly questions about how do we best, manage this person now who had, most of the breast tissue removed, but still has quite a bit left. How do we deal with that?
Yeah. So a lot of different tricky scenarios for
yes, and I think we've learned as a group that there's very little research on this, and so we're just kind of going based on what we are a huge group, which is nice. We have 16 genetic counselors, and we have 6 breast doctors I think we work with. So we do have a lot of kind of minds to pull from and try to tease out what we think is best, but at the end of the day, it's really just kind of what we think is best rather than things with a large evidence base.
Right. Yeah, and so, I know I've heard from at least one other person from your center, so, yeah. And it sounds like you guys are doing a really good job of trying to find that information the best you can.
Yeah, we're doing our best. I think a lot of it's just not out there, so.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we get more research in, but I guess that's, up to all of us to report the information that we get in some sort of way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I know who you talked to here. We're working on writing up, because we presented at NSGC, so we're working on writing up a case series just to get a little bit more out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And so before I move on to my next set of questions, do you have anything else that you want to say about how the session went, or the follow-up conversations, or even follow-up conversations with the student who was there?
I don't think so. I think I covered it all. One interesting note is the patient's actually coming back to present at our Cancer Genetic Counseling Conference here. So he's on our patient panel. So he's going to share a little bit about his experience. We have him, and we have a BRCA positive, gender nonconforming individual, because we're trying to focus on diversity at our conference this year. So they'll both be speaking, which will be really great.
That's awesome that you guys were able to set that up.
Mhm. Yeah, he's actually really excited to come. He's like, genetics is so cool. Can I stay for the whole conference?
So when you contacted him, he was very open to coming and sharing?
Yeah, he did have a little, he had some privacy concerns, likely because his mother is a physician in the area. So he'll be going by an alias name, and we're just going to take steps to make sure that he's comfortable privacy-wise because he had some concerns about that. But in terms of, sharing his story and being open about it and answering audience questions, he was completely open and kind of excited, I think, to help people learn more about how to best take care of people like him.
Yeah. No, I think that's really great that your center, not only is having a little more education about it, but really from a patient perspective.
Mhm.
So switching gears a little bit, do you
Yeah.
have any experience or personal relationships with anyone who identifies as transgender outside of work, like a friend or a family member?
Yeah, I do have a couple trans friends.
Okay, so it's something you're, comfortable with and
Mhm. Well, yeah, and my moms are gay, so kind of very involved in the gay and LGBT community.
yeah, so something you grew up, okay, cool. So something you grew up knowing more about.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I grew up doing a lot of theater, and that group tends to
A lot of, sorry, what?
I grew up doing a lot of theater too, so a lot of my
Okay.
friends were in the LGBT community.
Yeah. And it sounds like you had your GC training program pretty recently. Do you remember if they had any training on transgender specific issues?
We did not. Yeah, I just graduated in 2016, and I don't remember really specifically talking about transgender issues ever.
Okay. Do you know if you had did you have any training on LGBT issues in general?
I don't remember anything specifically. It was more like if you had like a case that came up, it may have been talked about with a supervisor, but I don't think we had any specific training.
Okay. So maybe just more in the context of going over a case that you saw.
Yeah, I think it came up in the context of in clinical rotations, but I don't recall any specific training in it, like in classes at least.
Okay. And so my next question is, does your job or hospital have training on transgender-specific issues? It sounds like you've set up a panel.
Yes. Well, that's for we host a cancer genetic counseling conference every year, so that's a little not necessarily aimed at the hospital here, but just kind of all cancer GCs in the area. But we do have, we have these like employee resource groups, and there is an LGBTQ one. And so they do have like seminars every once in a while, and there have been a few on trans-specific issues. We also did, as a genetics group, we had a couple trans individuals come and speak to us specifically and kind of do a seminar with us and a like open Q&A. So we have had some training here, but that was mostly fueled by us. So.
Okay. So that was fueled by you seeing more of these patients and really wanting
Mm-hmm.
to gain more information.
Yeah. So we specifically sought that out. But there are the ones, like monthly seminars are kind of center-wide, and we don't push those. Those just kind of are organized by that LGBTQ group at our company.
Yeah. And so if you were able to find, all the information you were looking for about transgender issues or transgender issues within cancer, what would be the most helpful information for you to find, assuming it exists?
Yeah. I think just more information on managing transgender people with cancer predisposition genes, because there really isn't any like outcome data that we were able to find, at least. But I think we also found in general that just learning more about the transition process, which literature obviously does exist on that piece of things, was something that we missed in our training, but was so important before going into the case. So I feel like something a little bit more about that would be really great, just for everyone to know.
Yeah. Just more about the general transition
process, because I already knew quite a bit, but still like not a lot of like necessarily details of a lot of the surgeries and a lot of different options surgically.
Yeah.
But I feel like to take the best care of your patient, you should know all of that stuff.
Yeah. And because it is a really intricate process, and most people probably haven't learned about it in another capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah.